Welcome. First off, I'll introduce myself. I'm Hugh. I like track machines. I like military stuff. I like finding rusty old gear and making it go, try and rescue it. So, after getting hold of a few machines, then fixing the shed, fresh window, don't worry about the mess on the bench, I figure probably should record some of this stuff for my own benefit, share it about, see who enjoys it. First off, restored a International Harvester BTD8, and then I can show you after. And since then, I've got several other projects on the go. One of them quite special, so I'll show you that here in a minute. But I've also got a BTD6 made in Doncaster, England. My son and myself are restoring that. That's just over there. We'll get to that in a minute. I've also got a little excavator, but that's just a sad story. So I figure I'll start a channel, share it, see if we can all learn something, see if I can learn something. Everyone likes a goodwill at the start. There's no shortage of equipment out there in the Blackberries. Got a couple of good mates that are into the same thing. I personally enjoy International Harvester. A good friend of mine is a Cleatrack man who's restoring an ex-Hydro Tasmania D8. There's plenty of Caterpillar guys around. So, see how we go. First thing. Here's a little darling. That's a Takeuchi TV 016. This machine I acquired off a bloke looking a bit sad, and I worked it and it goes well, and then it broke. And you know how it is, you go down the rabbit hole, and down the rabbit hole you go. So since then, engine mounts, full paint job, sandblast, paint booms, new pins, cylinders resealed, probably a new seat, brand new tracks. I actually had to fabricate a brand new track frame. I'll throw a little picture in here. You can't get those. And there's no such thing as a wreck one of these because they just keep using them. So this one's been about a laughs. Over here, this is the pile of parts that resembles something along the lines of a crawler. This is a BTD6 made in England, Doncaster manufactured. Now this piece of equipment I picked up for about $600 in the south of the state. Currently, apart from putting a bit of plywood over these final drives, this thing's all ready to go for paint. Use a local engineering company until I can get a sandblaster. Someone thought it'd be a great idea to leave the glow plugs out. So, the engine's in bits, and the more you go into it, the more you find. We find bits and pieces of final drive failure. Smash the back end out of this. I've since acquired a donor machine, which is going to give me all the parts I need. The problem with this old gear is there's not that much of it around anymore. There was a dealer in Tasmania many moons ago, ISAS, International Sales and Service, I believe. I've actually acquired a few parts, new old stock, still with their label. This stuff doesn't exist anymore. There's a bit of stuff kicking around out of the US, but the British stuff's different to the American things, just little subtle differences. And the Canadians made stuff different again. So we'll see what we can find. The best way to go about it is to find old gear. I've got a donor machine out there. I'll go out there. At the moment, it's absolutely shitful weather out there. It's not going to bother. It blows, rains. When the sun comes out, typical Tassie day. The exception to the rule of me being an international fan is this thing right here. This is one of 3 M2 high-speed Cleatracks. As I said, I'm into military stuff. Who can afford a tank? I don't really want a Jeep. And Bren gun carriers or universal carriers are cool, but there's not that, there's plenty of them around. I'm not a massive fan. These are not common. I believe that 20 came to Australia for war service. This one's dated 1943. These were made by the Cleveland Tractor Company, or Cleatrack. It has a BDH or a DDH, I can't remember, Peter will be able to tell me, back end. The final drive hubs are all bulldozer. The seat's the same shape except the seat is narrower. The tank is very similar, but there is a subtle difference. So essentially from here back is all bulldozer. Everything else is where it changes. This is very, very similar running gear to a half track. Now I'm told, and I've contacted them, there's some people in the US that are making tracks commercially again, so they're available. They're making a lot for half tracks because there's been a resurgence in restoring half tracks, and they decided to make them for these too. We've got 150 horsepower Hercules WXLC3 petrol engine. We'll see how we go with that. There's a few running in the world. Out of the 20 that came to Australia, there was a 21st that came to Tasmania by a steam contractor. I'll throw a little picture of a book that a gentleman wrote. I can't show you photos, but I can show you the book. Buy the book. So the Lennox company purchased one of these machines as war surplus and came to Tasmania back in the 50s. They bought one of these with them and they used this machine, well not this one, but they used it as a tender. They towed around a water cart, and you'll see the picture in the front of that book that I just showed you. And that fed the steam winches and the steam engines for steam ploughing and various things they did in contracting business. So I've since found that machine. So that's 21. Yeah, 21. Now out of that 21 machines that came to Australia, keep in mind there was about 8,500 of them made. Out of that 21, a bit over a dozen I'm aware of that exist or are known of. The rest are probably don't exist or are rotten, whatever. So I found three. This is one. This was found with that exact machine that came out in the 50s. So it's quite significant Tassie history. I'll go outside another day and show you that. Like I said, it's blowing a gale and it'd be no good. That was found with this machine. This machine was found with no bonnet. The bonnet was there, but it wasn't on it. The old fella said that he drove it there back in the day. This was pulling logs down the Derwent Valley. The other one, the Lennox machine we'll call it, was found down the Hugh Valley and allegedly had its tracks burned off in the 1967 bushfires, which for anyone who doesn't know was a massive big bushfire episode in 1967. My parents remember it. Obviously I wasn't around. So I found a third one. The third one was found in the north of the state, and that surprisingly is still in its military green, and it's RAAF marked. Once again, I'll show you that. I can show you a picture. It was not common for these to be in green. After the war, they were all painted yellow, and you'll see most of them in a rusty yellow, civil. So all this is not original. This one doesn't have its original running guards. This frame was added. This old fuel tank is not original. This is where the battery box sits, and I've since found a battery box. Once again, not quite Clear-Track bulldozer, but very, very similar. This is the project. This is the next restoration. For now, though, I've got to put all those little BTD6 parts, all that crap there, has got to go on a pallet. I've got to take it to the sandblaster to get it the hell out of my shed. And we'll pick a better day, and I'll show you around the yard a little bit. Take a few pallets. One pallet of bits. It'll all come back nice red. This little machine's going to be international red. I've got other plans for another machine to be yellow. This thing, this has helped. This is a four-wheel drive Manitou. And or Manitau, depends on what way you want to say it. And this is an absolute magic little machine, or buggy they call it. Wonderful little bit kit. Bought it second hand from an ex-hire place, and it's been a game changer. I can actually get around on the paddocks. all kinds of bits and pieces. Such a shame. Such a shame. I've got some photos of the what it looked like when I pulled the engine in half. It was a bit of a mess, to say the least. But it'll be right. New pistons and liners, and she'll tidy up. Righto. So we've got a little pile of parts that need to be pulled apart completely. So this is your, we'll call it intake. The oil bath filter or air filter hangs off underneath, and the little air pre-cleaner comes up, sticks up like that. That's through the firewall, sits there, that goes to the engine. This is your throttle control and your linkages and bits and pieces. So all this has got to come off here. That stuff can stay, because, well, it doesn't really need to come off. It achieves nothing. So we'll try and dismantle this, so we don't have it all stuck together with paint. I've undone that bolt there, which has taken the pressure off, but I believe I'm going to have to throw this in a vise, because with all these other little bits and pieces here to undo and get apart, this is going to be a bit more of a sandblasting cabinet job, this one. I'll get it over to the vise. Much better. That takes the spring pressure off. Now I reckon a little bit of force and a bit of jiggery puggery, that'll come off there, straight off that shaft, and then this housing will come off, and then huzzah, we should be on a winner. That's the orientation there as you sit in the operator station. That's your throttle. And the air cleaner comes up ahead like that, and the oil bath cleaner hangs down. There we go. We'll stack those the right way around. The handle comes off. All these little bits and pieces I'll keep, and I'll do in my own cabinet a bit later on. It's the big bits that take the time that I don't have the time to do, and these can all be painted with rattle cans. So look at that. It's a nice original piece. That it's a shame when you're going to buy new balls and bits and pieces for your levers. Should come off now. Come on. There we go. Beautiful. Now I need to move all this. It's all these linkages, all this old wiring and bits and pieces. But I've got wiring diagrams and, you know, some of this stuff. I'll be able to reuse these looms. There's nothing actually wrong with them. But with this, someone's hit this with the old Dulux rebuilt and just spray painted everything. All this needs to come off and strip back to a bare, and then they can all paint it. I suggest that the dash cluster's been rotted out one stage or another, and they've stitched another one of them in. But you know, this is what you get. This is 1959, dated based on the serial number, which is here, complete with bird shit. There we go. 8975. I believe it's 1959. So there's going to be repair work. Actually, that's not a bad job really when you look at it. That'll be right. It can stay exactly where it is. No one will even notice by the time it's in there. All these bits and pieces, they can all come out and it'll all be brand new. Like I say, we might be able to reuse some of the wiring. There's not actually anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. See what me Sparky says. These things can tell a story. I'll tell you, we've got, under this crappy yellow paint, we've got yellow, probably proper international yellow. And then I've just pulled this, what I'm assuming is an isolator off. And there's this beautiful international red there. I'll show you. It's amazing the story that they'll tell. Yet on the other side, we've got traces of yellow. So I'm guessing we'll work out what one came first. There we go. That shouldn't be too difficult to replicate if even I have to. If I just take that to the electrician, they'll just make that up. Pretty sure that's the glow, because this would have been connected to the glow plugs on the engine. So see how it goes. We'll just throw it in there for now. Now, how do we get that off? I reckon I'll take these little things here with the die grinder and then just punch them through, so we don't actually damage the serial number and on the ID plate that wants to stay. So we'll go get a die grinder and give it a bit of love. Safety first. I can tell you what's more fun, getting a die grinder chip in your eye. Been there, done that. Let's go. Beautiful. Early aluminium. Nice. Right, getting there. So what I've got now, it's got 2 sprockets and 2 final drive housings. So the final drive housings are covers, housings, call them whatever you want. They're probably going to get replaced and kept. The other ones on the donor machine are in good nick. These ones are being smashed and modified. The sprockets, we just have to strip out the drive hub and the portions of labyrinth seal either side of the sprocket, and that can go on the pallet too. The rest of it is mainly engine components or small, so I'll sort that out myself. Righto, I've decided not to do anything with those sprockets. I can do those with a wire wheel because they're pretty tough. That one there's a bit, that one's okay, that'll go again. But the funny thing is, the 2 on the donor dozer are the same. One's a bit sad, one's pretty good. So we'll get the best out of them. Ball gears, we'll see. Final drive covers, as I said, they're going to stay right there until I get them off the other machine. All this other stuff can stay here, main clutch, the adapter plate, call it whatever you will, off the back of the engine, and flywheel. They can just stay right there. Next big job is to get that outside, and then I'll need to cover these up here where the ball gear and the pinion and all the bits and pieces go. I need to keep sand out of that because in there is clutch packs and don't want dirt in there. So we'll cover these up with some nice plywood covers like this here where the main clutch runs, and then that there can go get painted. Once that's painted, it can sit back right there, and then it can all start getting put back together again. Should be a good little thing. Wow, that was way harder than what it should have been. Finding bolts without diving into the bolt packets that have been put aside for this thing. I've got to get all these sandwich bags full of bolts sent to the nut and bolt shop and turn into new ones to bolt it all back together. A lot of these here are only filling the holes. They'll have to be replaced and everything will go back where it's supposed to. That's got the main axle buttoned up nice, final drives are tidied up. That should be right to just pick up and send it away. And all the crap outside, time for a cup of tea.